It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, I'm Alex Kaiju. To my left
Stephen Myers.
and across,
Eli Watson.
and we are
Cryptid Campfire.
I'm sorry, I was drinking water.
That's okay. You gotta stay hydrated on the middle of this UFO.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to breach the transmissions, and if you're hearing this episode, it's a Patreon exclusive.
Yes, sir.
So we thank you for looking towards the skies and listening with your little devices pointing out to above, and also paying for the Patreon. So hey,
Thank
props
you,
to
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for supporting us. We hope to give you more Patreon exclusive episodes in the near future. So this is just the first. This is but a taste of what is to come.
Yeah. So add the appetizer.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it today?
Today, well, we're talking about Bluebook 1.5.
Oh, it's probably in the title if they clicked on it.
Yeah. So the last time we left off was the Washington merry-go-round.
Oh, that's when Joseph Hynek shot Barney Hill on the tarmac.
What? No. This is the one where.
Oh, that's the Bluebook season finale, right?
No. No, this is all the UFOs that appeared over the White House.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were showing up on radar and disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Ruppelt as the
acting
director,
chief, right?
yeah, the chief director of Bluebook. And Hynek is still there. And that's kind of where we're picking up.
Get into the nitty gritty of Hynek going on his adventures.
Yeah, we're just going to delve into it a little bit further.
Yeah. So what's on the agenda?
Well, we're going to take a little trip to July 2nd, 1952.
Okay.
A Navy Chief Warrant Officer, Delbert Newhouse, was on vacation with his wife and his two teenaged children, driving south on U.S. Highway 30. They were just outside of Tremonton, Utah, at around 11:10 a.m.
Uh-huh.
when his wife, Norma, commented on the unusual objects overhead. It was a clear, cloudless morning, so it's a clear, cloudless morning.
Okay.
He pulled the car over to look at it better, and there was a group of about 10 to 12 objects in the sky, and they're like flying around in a rough formation, but it's really loose.
Okay.
So they'll be in a formation, kind of break apart, and then come back, and they're heading west. And so Newhouse busted out his Bell & Howell movie camera, 16 mil, and filmed it.
We got a movie director.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the most controversial UFO films, out there.
A lot of nudity.
No, it's just nobody knows what it is. So the video shows bright white objects that circular just against a blue sky.
Okay.
So there's nothing really in the frame to really gauge distance.
Sure. Mm.
And so, just like what I was saying, sometimes they form up, shape a pattern, they'll break apart.
Mm.
Sometimes they'll break off into pairs.
Do you know what kind of patterns they were doing? Was it like triangles or they were doing the shape of like a ducky in the air?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Nothing
the
that
Phoenix
doing
lights?
animals?
No, they're just forming
Triangles or
flight formations.
Okay.
And
then they break up and then
yeah,
do little dances and
the
stuff.
footage is only 40 seconds long though.
Still.
Oh
Yeah, and it ends with one of the objects just taken off screen, and it just ends there. I'm not sure if he ran out of film or what the deal was.
Yeah, you just figure 40 seconds of film probably went pretty quick.
Yeah.
If you have just a small, was it a personal kind of camera?
Yeah.
So you probably didn't have that much film in it to begin with.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of vacay photos, dude. Vacay vids.
He's just he goes, because he was the FBI, he's like, all right, everyone, we got this footage of it, and it's a slideshow. I got to get through 1,000 photos of vacation. It's here's us at, the Panama Canal. Here's us at, the Hungry Bear Cafe. And it's just here's Norma goofing off, and it's just they're all sitting there for an hour.
So Newhouse describes that from his vantage point, he estimated that they are roughly the same size as a B-29 at 10,000 feet. So not that they were the size of B-29, but that they looked like the size. How do I explain?
Sorry, what?
From his vantage point, like from where he was standing, if a B-29 was at 10,000 feet,
Okay.
it would look to be a certain size in the sky.
Sure.
That's about the same size as these objects he was seeing.
Okay.
So they're roughly the same size, but he's not able to tell
It's like
at
when
what
people
altitude.
say there was something that was the big of a house. So it's not really the size of a house. It's kind of big.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing he could say is like, oh,
Right.
like, I've seen those planes flying in and out of the bases, so it looked kind of like at that altitude.
Okay.
more or
Right.
less.
Well, and here's the thing. B-29, you might be asking yourself, what is a B-29?
Yeah. Some kind of vitamin, right?
No. It's a military aircraft. It was actually the ones, famously, the Enola Gay and the boxcar that dropped the atomic bombs on Japan.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Have you seen one of those in real life?
Mm-mm. They're huge?
Yeah, dude, they're
Yeah.
humongous.
Wow.
And
That's it.
They
They're
usually
big.
They have like a pretty lady painted on the side of it. It's just like,
Oh yeah.
you know, bombs ahoy, sailors.
Bombs ahoy.
I thought the UFOs had like sexy alien chicks like pinups on them.
Yeah. But here's the crazy thing about Newhouse is that he was a 21-year Navy vet with 2,000 hours of flight time.
Okay.
And on top of that, he was also the official chief photographer.
Okay. So he knows his way around the camera
Oh,
and
yeah.
around flying objects.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the most part. And so Bluebook even said that it was possibly the best documentary evidence yet obtained of unidentified flying objects. And it got examined by the Air Force's photo lab. And so after an estimated 1,000 man-hours of work, the U.S. military's finest photo analysis said,
It is the majority opinion of the group conducting this analysis that their images are light sources. This will explain the non-blinking and variations in luminosity, but not the velocity or acceleration factors. In either case, light sources or reflective surface, it appears as if the objects are of a nature which we are not able to identify in terms of natural phenomenon or commonly known man-made objects. There was no indication of what kind of objects could have caused these images except they must have been a constructive design and material not commonly known. It is indicated by the computed acceleration rate and velocity. For the major reasons, birds, aircraft, and balloons are ruled out. And that was me butchering this statement. And basically, that was that Bluebook's analysis of it.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
like, we
oh,
don't know
no, that's the top military photograph analysis.
the top men.
Yeah, the top
They
man.
say, we don't know what the hell it is. And all that flowery language. But so they said, we know for sure they're not birds, planes, or balloons.
And they also said that they're not going to speculate on the nature of the objects.
But they said they were leaning towards swamp gas.
Ruppelt said this about this event, though. He said that the Navy didn't use the words interplanetary spacecraft when they told of their conclusions, but they did say that the UFOs were intelligently controlled vehicles and that they weren't airplanes or birds. So to reiterate basically what you just said.
It's like the roundabout way of being like, well, they're flying and they know it's something's controlling it. We just don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So UFO, we can either confirm or deny that sentence
Maybe.
being used. Yeah, I don't know. You tell us.
What
Right.
do you think?
Yeah, they turn it on the reporter. So like, what do you guys think? What do you? Hey, we got 1,000 hours looking at this 40 seconds. That's 1,000 hours looking at the same 40 seconds over and
crazy.
over and over again.
It's 1,000 man-hours, so...
They just had it on a loop for 1,000 hours playing. They're just like watching it. Like, is there an intermission on this thing? Nope. We're in it for the long haul.
Well, later that year, in October 1952, the American Optical Society in Boston held a gathering to try to get to the bottom of these UFOs. As we will see in Bluebook, many people tried to get to the bottom of these UFOs, and nothing has ever happened from it.
And it was a big bottom, too.
Yeah. They invited 3 respected scientists to speak at this gathering,
Yeah.
and all 3 agreed. And so we have number 1,
Yeah.
the Atomic Energy Commission member and Bendix aviation researcher Dr. Erner Liddell.
Okay.
And he chose to focus on a particular case from 1948 known as the Charles Whitted case.
Okay.
And so just to sum this up, because we didn't cover this in part 1,
Yeah.
and I'm not really going to cover it now, but basically 2 commercial pilots, their last names Childs and Whitted, they had witnessed a UFO travel next to them and pull up into a cloud and disappear.
Whoa.
And it lasted for several minutes.
Mm.
Dr. Liddell dismissed this as moonlight on an invisible cloud.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah. Not only do we have visible clouds, we got to worry about that with lightning and thunder. There's invisible clouds too,
Yeah.
for good measure.
Not confusing at all.
Yeah.
And then he
and
went...
there's invisible lightning too. That's what spontaneous combustion is.
Yeah.
It's people being hit by invisible lightning from invisible clouds.
Well, Liddell went even further and belittled the American people by calling them gullible fools who will believe most any story.
Okay. Was he American too, or is he?
I think so.
Is he some kind of snooty Frenchman?
No, I think he's just a snooty American. So then we have scientist number 2, Dr. Donald H. Menzel. And he was the director of the Harvard College Observatory in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And he dismissed all UFO sightings as mirage, reflection, refraction, temperature inversions, and the like.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Yeah.
Less confusing
Yeah.
as the first guy.
Yeah, I guess.
More concise, I would say.
They're all mirages. Because normally people see like a watering hole with like, palm trees and stuff in the desert. It's a
Yeah.
mirage, and also it's just like you see like water and palm trees in the sky too. And you're just like, I think I'm having a mirage. Right around.
Well, scientist number 3 was
Come on down.
J. Allen Hynek.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He came in there. Yeah, they're playing the whoop. There it is as he comes onto the stage.
Here comes the hurricane.
Yeah.
He's like, it turned into a massive rager.
Well,
He's drinking beer, smashing on his forehead, throwing it at the other guys.
Toga.
Toga.
well, he was ready to roast people.
Oh, of course.
So
We had a flamethrower.
So, this is what he said. He stated that Dr. Menzel and Dr. Liddell had not studied the literature or evidence enough and were not qualified to speak with authority of the subject of identified aerial phenomena.
Shots fired,
And then
dude.
he said, also, their moms are so fat, when they sit around the house, they really sit around the house.
No, he went on to say that he went on to explain what a UFO was to them, what an unidentified flying object was to them, and that he said that it's any aerial phenomena that remains unknown or unexplained to the viewer as long as it takes for them to write about it. Seems pretty legit.
Yeah.
So to dismiss them as mirages or reflections or refractions, it's like that doesn't mean that it's not a UFO,
Yeah.
Nah.
right?
It's
They're just
something in-
scared, dude. They're scared.
Yeah. They got paid off.
Then he said that Liddell and Menzel were too willing to ignore evidence.
Yeah.
So, especially with the Charles Whitted case,
Yeah.
there's like...
I mean, we've seen a lot of that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then
he called them lunkheads.
But then, and only then, does he drop the bomb on them.
Whoa.
That he-
Actual bomb.
Because it should be important to note that nobody really knows who Hynek is at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
It's pretty...
They know the storms are brewing, but they know the hurricane's coming.
Yeah, this is basically where he reveals that he's an authority on UFOs because he's been working with the U.S. government since Project Sign.
Yeah. Back
And-
in what, 47?
Like 47?
Yeah.
And people are just like, whoa. And so,
Egad.
and here's a quote from Hynek. He says, "The chief point here is to suggest that nothing constructive is accomplished for the public at large, and therefore science in the long run by mere ridicule and the implication that sightings are the products of bird brains and intellectual flyweights."
Oh.
And then he said this, and this is probably my favorite quote by him, is ridicule is not a part of the scientific method, and the public should not be taught that it is.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is a really good thing to say.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
And having cool cars, fashion, and, money is not a substitute for a personality.
Like, it's like causing people some trauma, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just making fun of them.
Right.
All they want to do is just figure out, like, some information.
Hynek had to bring the
And they're
smack
smacking
down
all
to
these
him.
people in the face, dude.
Right?
It's horrible.
I know.
It's
That's
irresponsible.
crazy. So what happened after he dropped that bomb?
Well,
The wreckage cleared.
Did they like ground shake under them?
their heads,
The hurricane's coming. It's here.
Their heads exploded like scanners.
Yeah, exactly.
well, him and Bluebook kind of blew up, and Bluebook became a lot more famous for, even though they had 80% of cases as solved, they became more famous for the 20% that was unsolved or unexplained.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to. We brought up at the end of the last episode the Battelle Memorial Institute.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how they, they had Hynek and Ruppelt working together to, take.
Find them aliens.
Well,
Yeah, they wanted like a nice, concise like form of data.
Yeah, to catalog all the Bluebook cases. Well, as a result of the Washington merry-go-round, I always want to say Washington go merry-round.
Yeah, the Washington go merry-round.
Well, because of this, national security was involved because, you have things flying over the White House. And so the CIA decided they needed to take a closer look at the case files that Bluebook had and perform their own analysis. And the Battelle Memorial Institute was like, no, we have, Project Stork, which is what this back catalog was.
Yeah.
Where babies come from. Project Stork.
Oh yeah.
And the CIA said, no, we're all right.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
We cool.
And so they created the Robertson panel. And that was chaired by Dr. H.P. Robertson. And he was a classified CIA staffer and director of the Defense Department's Weapons Systems Evaluation Group, which means he was there to analyze the potential threat that UFOs pose to national security. That was the whole point of the Robertson panel. Yeah. So January 14th, 1953 is when a small team of scientists and Robertson convened for this scientific analysis of the UFO phenomenon.
Okay.
And what it ended up being was basically a shit show.
Okay.
It was
We're Patreon exclusive, so we can say the big boy words now.
Uh-oh.
Well, it ended up being like 4 days of running through 5 years of research.
Yeah.
And I think, let's see what they said.
Literally running through 5 years of research.
They're just like Hynek's just like, all right, everyone, go, 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 and then he's just like, they're all blindfolded running into violent cases and stuff. He's like, find alien, boys. And they let a wild pig loose.
Well, they only examined 23 UFO reports out of 4,400 total.
Yeah, I mean that's all
which
you
is
need.
And so
in 4 days they looked at 23.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and the
Lunch
Newhouse
break.
film, the Newhouse film was discussed, and another film from Great Falls, Montana, which is called the Montana film. I won't get into that too much because I don't have too much on that, but basically, similar thing what happened in Newhouse. Somebody filmed some UFOs in Montana. And it's really clear.
Have you seen this?
I have not, but it's on YouTube.
Ooh, let's check it out.
Yeah. And Hynek was really excited that they're going to show the footage, but they didn't display it on anything nice. They just projected it on the wall.
Oh my.
Just like
What color was the wall? Like a dark blue?
I probably
it was like lime green.
Yeah, nasty green.
And then not only this, they showed it one day, and then the next day they showed
They
footage.
filmed over it with,
No.
with the NBC Friday Night Lights.
they recorded over it?
No, the next day they showed footage of storks flying in the sky,
Yeah.
and they were like, yeah, so they're basically the same thing, right? But like this is projected on a wall,
Yeah.
days apart.
In a dungy old basement.
Yeah, that kind of looks like what we saw a couple days ago.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, guys, we gotta. They're like, come on, it's Miller Times anytime. Let's get this over with.
Not only this, but one of the main panelists didn't even show up till day 3, and his opinion was considered as equal as everyone else.
Yeah, so it obviously shows how little care they gave to this.
They didn't give a F.
Yeah, I have a quote from Hynek here.
Let me read it.
Yeah.
If the whole Robertson panel was a put-up job, then one could argue that they deliberately chose high scientific establishment men who were terribly, terribly busy, could obviously not spend a lot of time examining things, and had no intention of doing their homework. Sounds about right.
Whoa.
Basically.
I feel like that goes on the entirety since sign,
Yeah,
sign to the end.
that sums up most modern day government.
People, like, they're getting paid to do all this,
Yeah.
right? But they act like they don't want to be there
Yeah.
the entire time.
And then everyone's got to buy their own food too, so everyone's just like, oh, I'm not staying for this. Like,
Yikes.
not even a free pizza.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys can guess the result of this Robertson panel, which was UFOs don't pose a threat to national security.
Yeah.
Seems to be a
What
trend.
if the aliens did it? The perfect power move. They're like, we'll get people to not think UFOs are dangerous, so when we do storm the White House, they'll be completely unprepared for it.
Well, the panel also recommended that the CIA and the Air Force use every effort at their disposal to make the public lose interest in UFOs. So
That's
they're bringing, grudge back.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And it's ironic kind of what happened. Their strategy to do it was to up the budget for Bluebook
Yeah.
and to hire on far more people than Bluebook had ever had before
Uh-huh.
to
Yeah.
look at more UFO cases to explain them away.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it goes down to like 0.3,
yeah,
right?
something like that. Yeah.
And it's like,
Maybe not 0.3. Is it 3? I think it's 3.
it drops significantly because they just go in there, they spend a couple hours in whatever town, saw stuff, they're like, oh, it's swamp gas or
Oh,
something.
well,
Yeah, if they even
Yeah.
visit.
yeah, we'll
dude.
even get into that. Just like some of the cases later, how they're handled are pretty insane.
Pretty lax.
Yeah. Well, Hynek around this time, he returned to Ohio State and was considering his now expanded role at Bluebook. And that's when he teamed up with a woman named Jenny Ziedman, his assistant, who had also had access to top secret files by age 22.
Whoa.
Yeah, she's really young, but
Pretty impressive.
she's really smart too.
She's like Black Widow, basically.
Basically, they came up with a code name because, Hynek was working for Project Bluebook.
Yeah.
And as working with Bluebook, I'm pretty sure his contract was that he couldn't really help anybody else out in terms of UFOs. I know they do that later.
Yeah.
Definitely try to block him from doing other things. And so, but obviously, Hynek was part of Project Stork.
Yeah.
And so he needed a code name for how he was going to do consultations for Project Stork, which ended up being Project Henry.
Right.
Oh.
That's what I thought you were talking about.
Yep. And this was happening at the same time that Ruppelt was temporarily reassigned to teach at an Air Force intelligence school.
Okay.
And so the person left in charge of Bluebook was a guy named First Lieutenant Robert Olson, and from what I can tell, he was a pushover.
Yeah.
So,
Poor
so
guy.
basically, their way of operating was this. Once a week, Hynek and Ziedman would get a manila envelope mailed to them, filled with UFO reports from all over the world. And Hynek would look at them to see if he could dispel any astronomical objects, immediately.
Yeah.
Because, some, people are just...
Cut through the crap,
Yeah.
It's just Venus. Like,
And that technically was his job at
Yeah.
Bluebook. That was all he was really hired on to do. And he only got paid to investigate cases that Bluebook told him to investigate.
yeah.
So the way he would try to loop around this, because if he was going to do investigations on his own, they would not be reimbursed by the
Sure.
Air Force.
Yeah.
So anything he investigated for Project Stork wouldn't be reimbursed.
Right.
Okay.
So his way to get around this was, if a Project Stork case came his way, he would request them to send it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, so that it would be officially a Bluebook file.
Oh.
And that way, if he was told to investigate that particular Bluebook case, he would get money,
That money for
but
it.
also do research for Project Stork.
Yeah.
And that was what Project Henry was, really.
Just a front.
Yeah. It's pretty sick, though.
That is sick.
Yeah.
But it's not like he was doing it just for the money. Because
No.
he looked through the files and would see which
Yeah,
ones
just-
he could actually,
Yeah.
legitimately spend time.
Mm-hmm.
And make a
Working
living
on it.
off of it so he could
Yeah, exactly.
keep looking
Right.
into more cases.
Because I'm sure they all get pretty repetitive, you
Yeah.
know? Or they're just,
I mean-
obviously fake. Hynek's a good guy!
Hynek's a good cop.
Yeah. Jenny Ziedman, though, has some interesting things to say about the Bluebook headquarters, which I think is something we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
About like what it physically looked like.
It was the
HQ?
shape of a big book.
Yeah. She goes on to say that the Bluebook facility, Building 263, not Hangar 18, consisted of 3 cramped, crummy little offices. The paint was peeling and the file cabinets were warped. There was a United States map with pins stuck in it, a Sergeant Gopher, a gum-cracking, beehive-haired dude secretary, who was a civilian, and dried-out coffee pot on the windowsill.
Wow.
No wonder, she says, I never saw Captain Ed Ruppelt, the Bluebook head, smile.
Yeah.
Just dreary as hell.
Oh, I guess I should say this. I keep forgetting. The where I'm getting all this information from is the The Close Encounters Man by Mark O'Connell.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is basically the not the autobiography, but the biography of Jalen Hynek.
It's the best source for everything Hynek.
Yeah.
Basically.
First person to comment, Eli will send his own copy to your house.
No, I like
With some of the
copy.
pages ripped out for good measure, and other pages blacked out with Sharpie
Redacted.
to give you that feel.
Yeah. So, that brings us to 1953.
Okay.
Which is a big year because it marks the transition into the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
So
the Russians are out for blood, and Hynek's going to give it to them in tenfolds.
Yeah, basically. And this is pretty wild. I didn't know this, but the U.S., the skies, basically, except for, like, certain areas, they weren't, like, radars weren't everywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, you could fly over the middle of nowhere, Montana, and no one would know you were there.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And
eerie.
So, yeah, and that's why this was an actual job. Sky Watchers, I guess what they were actually called was the Ground Observers Corps, or the GOC. And so civilians would be up in watchtowers just with binoculars watching the skies. Just like watching the planes.
Yeah.
And that was like not that long. This is 1950s.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Imagine
Yeah.
getting paid just to, like, look at the sky.
That would get so boring, dude.
Yeah, and around this time, so we have people watching the sky there, but we also have other people showing up to watch the skies, and these are UFO groups.
Uh-oh.
So
This is when the wackadoos come out.
yeah, basically. So, Stefan, you want to tell us about CSI?
Oh, yeah.
CSI Miami.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of guys that worked for...
What does it stand for?
Oh, what is it? I have it here. Civilian Saucer Investigators.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
They all come in, and they're just like, look at the sky. They're like, we thought the sky was blue, but now we're going to blue book it. Yeah! And they put the sunglasses on.
No.
Well, these guys are not Blue Book. That's the point.
Yeah.
So, tell us about them.
Well, that it says in late 1951, several scientists, aeronautical engineers, and interested persons established a UFO study group in California, Los Angeles specifically.
Oh.
Why is quotations on that?
Because it technically is the CSI Los Angeles is the one we're talking about. Because there's a bunch with the same name around the world.
Yeah.
But that's just a coincidence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because
They're not connected.
They're based in L.A. because in the City of Angels, even aliens fall from the sky sometimes.
Where do you come up with this stuff, dude? But a couple of North American aviation employees got together and co-founded this little group
Okay.
because they wanted. But they don't have like any ties to like any governments or
They're
anything.
completely independent.
Yeah, they want to figure it out for themselves, which I thought was pretty cool. Because they're just being fed lies after lies.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, we see what the climate is with Blue Book and everything.
Yeah.
Just saying, like, UFOs are not real. UFOs are not
Exactly.
a threat.
Yeah.
But people are seeing them.
Yeah, and they just want to figure out what's going on for themselves.
So you got a group of, men who've been pushed too far by the lies and the bureaucracy, and they go full and glorious bastards.
Yeah, but they were mentioned in an article in Life magazine, and the article is "Have We Visitors from Space?"
Wow.
which Ruppelt also said was one of the most popular articles in history.
Huh.
But yeah, they were mentioned in there, so they gained like a little bit of headway.
Got a little
They were still
notoriety.
very, very much independent, so they didn't have a lot of resources. But that article gave them, because they got an address, so they were getting sent UFO cases and everything, like
Oh, sick.
reports from people.
Oh,
What's
dang.
the address? Can we go there?
No, I don't have it.
Oh,
I probably
Oh.
could find it, but they
find it.
they only lasted about like 2 years.
yeah. And then they just kind
Which
of.
is sad because they just don't have any money. They're
Yeah.
a non-profit and they're just
Yeah, they're probably getting
they're working
reports
for
all
themselves.
over. Yeah.
and
They probably do it on the weekends, you know. They probably have a week job, you know, weekdays or weekends. They're probably like, oh,
Yeah.
let's go. Maybe we can go up to, you know, Fresno or something, or
Exactly.
this or that. And then it's like Colorado and like Montana's like, hey, come visit us. And we're like, we don't got the bus fare for that.
yeah.
yeah, so they're trying to spend the time going through the files and everything, but it's just very much time consuming, obviously, for how little people they have and for how little money they have. And actually, there's an article that came out in a magazine called American Mercury that called the founder Sullivan. They called him like a cult leader.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about Ed Sullivan. He was an aviation writer. That's it.
Yeah.
Is the
Sorry.
same guy from the Ed Sullivan Show?
No, I don't think so.
For my next guest.
They called him a cult leader.
Yeah.
Dang, what an awful thing.
Yeah,
to be
and
called.
one of the other guys that Ed worked with, his name was Walter Rydell,
Okay.
and he's German, and they called him a Nazi in the article as
Whoa.
well.
Oh man.
Yeah.
He was like.
So after
Dr.
that, the
Strangelove.
reputation kind of just like went in the tubes. They don't have any money, so they ended
Yeah.
up just breaking up.
Dang, that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
They're like, it's the Nazi cult over there. They're trying to summon UFOs.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, that
'Cause
is.
I don't think they really even called for that. It's just a hit piece, dude. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
In the 50s.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah,
Well,
very
that,
short-lived, but very
You know,
noble.
yeah.
they
They were
came
trying to
in,
do a good
kicked
thing.
ass, take names.
Yeah, because it just sucks because the people who have the resources and the money just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Well-
that they're just actively trying to discredit anything.
But it was cool because they made like Life magazine is national, you know. So
Yeah,
the fact
that's
that
cool.
Yeah.
people found out about them and
But you
helped
know
them out a
who
little
did
bit.
make it big time? APRO.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
Aerial Phenomenon
Yeah.
Research Organization.
They went pro.
They went
I
out
guess.
pro.
Well, they actually formed in 1952, so a little before CSI.
Okay.
In Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, by Jim and Coral Lorenzen. And they had 3,000 members at its peak and were active for 3 decades.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, Coral Lorenzen, she saw 2 UFOs in her lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her husband embraced the ET hypothesis. So, and they were like, Hynek was investigating lots of just sightings, but he like stayed away from the occupants. Like, if there was aliens in your case, he was not interested.
Yeah.
And that's what APRO kind of specialized in, was like looking into,
Experiencers.
Yeah.
Experiences.
yeah, but they had one thing in common with Bluebook, which was their hate of contactees.
Yeah.
And what are contactees?
People have been contacted by the aliens.
Exactly.
Usually, what we've talked about in this whole tome so far is people getting abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
Like, usually, always against their will.
Yeah.
Usually, like, probed and things like that. Contactees are different because a UFO will land in your house or, like, in your front yard, and they'll be like, "You want to take a ride?"
Yeah.
So,
You want to take a ride
Yeah.
on the wild side?
so they're specifically invited on board. That's what makes them different, supposedly.
They got
So-
the VIP experience.
Yeah. Which brings us to our most famous guy of the night. Do you want to tell us about that, Alex?
Oh man, are we talking about George Adamski?
Yep.
Professor George Adamski, despite never having any doctorates or ever even going to school.
Did he really go by professor?
People called him
Oh,
Professor.
man.
He is a self-appointed philosopher, teacher, student, and saucer researcher. Those are his words. Meanwhile, everyone else knows him as crazy con artist. And this guy is awesome because he's just like, I just have a few points about him because
Okay.
there's so much
Sure.
to cover about him.
Yeah,
But I'll
we
give you,
could do our own episode
Yeah,
about this,
yeah, I
which
think
would
it'd
be
be-
really fun,
yeah,
actually.
I'll give you a few bullet points of this guy. So his name's George Adamski, and here's what's funny is, so in the 50s is aliens and UFOs and everything. In the 30s, he was a minor figure in the California occult scene.
Really?
What?
Yeah, in like the early 30s.
Uh-oh.
He's bumming around with people. He's got his own religion, universal law, which is a mixture of Christianity and Eastern philosophy.
Interesting.
So he's bumming on people's couches.
Does he live on Spawn Movie Ranch?
No, not yet. But one day, his son Charles Manson will take him. But yeah, so
Jesus.
he's got his own kind of BS religion he's walking around with. And in the early 30s, in Laguna Beach, he founded the Royal Order of Tibet, which was
Okay.
a philosophy based.
Sure.
They held meetings in the Temple of Scientific Philosophy,
What?
i.e., his basement.
Oh my
And they
God.
come together and like talk about like what is life, man. Dig it, dude. And my favorite thing is the Royal Order of Tibet. They actually got a government license to make wine
What?
for religious purposes during Prohibition.
Jesus, who are these people?
And Adaminsky is quoted as, "I made enough wine for all of Southern California. I was making a fortune."
Yeah, I got that he was a bootlegger back in
Yeah,
the day.
but he was bootlegging it through religious purposes.
Oh, my lord.
But then after Prohibition ended, his wine-making profits dried up, and he, with his close friends, Adamski, he said this. He said, "Oh man, I can't make money off wine anymore. It's like the late 30s, early 40s. Time to get in that flying saucer crap and get some money off of that."
No, really?
Yeah.
I got that happened in 1944.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So right as UFOs
Wow.
are kind of coming in, he's just like, I gotta get on that bandwagon.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Cut to,
Wow.
this guy's so
All
great.
credibility just gone.
Because it's just like I was reading everything about him, and it just got getting worse and worse, but also better and better because it's just more and more next crazier scheme after scheme. Cut to November 12th, November 20th, 1952. Adamski and his friends were in the Colorado desert, which is deceptively in California. It's near Desert Center, California, which is more southern.
Yeah.
And that's where he got visited by an alien.
Orthon, right?
Orthon from
yeah.
Venus.
Orthon?
Yeah.
Orthon.
So a fire UFO lands down, and he was away from his friends. So his friends see him off in the distance just talking to some guy.
Oh.
They didn't see the UFO, but they saw him talking to some guy. And on Venus, the guy was medium height humanoid with long blonde hair and a nice tan.
Stefan?
And my favorite thing is Adaminsky says his trousers were not like mine at all.
What does that mean?
He was rocking bell bottoms. He's ahead of his time. Venus was rocking bell bottoms. He had the big V shirt with the peace sign
Yikes.
on.
Like he's afraid of him now?
Yeah,
Like,
he's-
oh, his clothes are so
It's like,
different.
your pants are so wide. And they communicated via telepathy and hand signals. So a lot of peace signs, a lot of walking the dog signs.
There we
Well,
go.
here's an interesting point about telepathy. I got that even before he was into all this UFO stuff, that he was selling like 12-month packages. Like you would get a package every month
Yeah,
teaching you the secrets of telepathy.
yeah,
So it's interesting that
This guy?
Yeah, this guy.
yeah.
It's-
He like we're leaving so much out as we
Yeah,
go. On
I
this
believe
guy.
it.
And Orthon warned the dangers of nuclear war. He described. It was funny too because Adaminsky described the presence of this inhabitant of Venus was like the warm embrace of great love and understanding wisdom. So I'm assuming they kissed a lot too.
Yeah, dude, this guy's high as hell.
Yeah, he's just like, oh man, this long-haired man with strange pants was giving me all kinds of warm embraces in the desert. And so a year later, desperately in need of money, Adaminsky produces The Flying Saucers Have Landed, which is a book. It's a tell-all book about Venus and all the other intergalactic planets. That all have all the planets in the solar system are inhabited, and they have space travel except for us. And it was co-authored with Desmond Leslie, which is a friend of his.
Huh.
And this guy's awesome too, because he made a bunch of low-budget science fiction movies in his house and
Oh,
stuff.
sweet.
Yeah. So, and I think Adamitsky like shows up in one.
Really?
Yeah, they're just like two weirdos hanging out in the basement
We
making
gotta find
private
those, dude.
films about UFOs.
We do gotta find those.
And this is where Nordics come from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Nordics actually come from George Adamitsky, because they live on Venus and like Mars, Jupiter.
Oh, yeah.
He says that they're fully furnished with cities, that there's like trees on all the planets and sky, like snow-capped mountains on the moon and stuff. Because he goes to the moon at one point.
Oh, yeah, of course he does.
And the Nordics.
Yeah, why not?
The Nordics / Space Brothers, as they're known.
Okay, Space Bros, yeah.
Space Bros. They're worried about the nuclear bomb test that the Earth's doing, because it's going to wipe out all life on Earth, and then it's going to spread to every other planet,
Huh.
like some kind of cosmic plague of radioactivity.
Checks out.
So that's his most. And he took a lot of photos too of UFOs,
Yeah,
and that's kind of.
we'll get into that.
Yeah, so he's famous for going to different planets. In 1962, he said he took a trip to the dark side of the moon.
Huh.
All right.
Where it was full of cities, trees, snow-capped mountains. It was like a whole shindig on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, did he write an album?
Yeah. He was like, there was even like this big prism that had like a rainbow going through it and shooting out music.
Shooting out music?
Yeah. He's like, I can see everything.
I can see music and hear colors, guys.
I can taste the colors.
I do want to bring this up real quick.
Yeah, because we're off the rails with this
Right.
guy.
No, I mean, we're on track, but like, because I don't know where to bring this up, but in his early days, before he was over here in Los Angeles, doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He was actually in the U.S. military.
Yeah.
He was a cavalryman, and he served in the Mexican-American War.
Yeah, with the Pancho Villa.
Yeah, so
situation down there.
pretty interesting that this guy was also like kind of a cowboy.
Yeah,
and
he was kind of like a
he was
war hero cowboy.
government cowboy.
Yeah.
He's everything that Dutch Vanderlyn hated.
I got a little plan.
All I'm asking is a little faith. In 1962, he told everyone he was going to be attending an interplanetary conference on Venus.
Yeah.
So he just like disappeared for a while. and
Where
around
did
that
he
time,
go?
he went to Venus. Even though science says that the gravity on Venus is like 16 times heavier than we have here, so you'd be crushed if you ever set foot on Venus. And in 1963, he claimed he met the Pope.
Of Venus?
I remember.
No.
Oh, I was like, what?
The Pope had him flown out to Vatican City
Oh
on
my
his
God.
private jet. They had a private meeting, and Adamski was like, because the Pope was very staunchly against contact with aliens. He's like, they don't fit into the narrative of the Catholic Church, so we're not talking to no aliens. And Adamski's like, oh, they're cool. The Space Brothers. They got the long hair.
Lighten up, dude. Come on.
They got the crazy pants. They got the warm embraces out of this world, man. You can feel the cells in your brain, man. And he even got a token from the Pope himself. That was like it was the Medal of Honor, basically, from
What?
the Vatican City.
Really?
But-
Is this real?
It was a real coin, but it was like the things you get at like the tourist.
Okay.
At the Vatican City. It was like a
Yeah.
little like commemorative
That's so
thing, and he
funny.
had it in a cheap box too. And he's like,
Oh, man.
the Pope gave this to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's like just like ratted out cardboard.
Yeah, it like fell out on the ground. He's like, oops, sorry about that. Wiped it off on his shirt.
Spits on it.
Shoot, bit on it real quick to make sure it's real gold. But yeah, and he was actually investigated by Bluebook because
Yeah.
you got this guy out in the desert, and he's just like, I've seen the aliens, I've been with the aliens, I am the aliens.
I am actually
Well-
the alien.
Well, let's segue into that. Because people like Adamski, he wasn't the only guy doing this. There was just a quick note. This guy named George Van Tassel,
Yeah.
who said he made friends with Ashtar from the Council of Seven Lights.
Oh yeah.
And
Just down the road on Sepulveda.
well, actually, he's in Yucca Valley.
Oh.
So he's not too far, but he basically built this big dome thing that was supposed to rejuvenate human cells.
Yeah.
But then he died.
Ironically.
Yeah. So,
Oh my god.
anyways, people like this were like really soaking up media attention.
Yeah.
Because obviously, oh, you saw a UFO? Well, it was possibly swamp gas. Is not as interesting as, yeah, I went to Venus and
I went to Venus and they had a concert. They're giving out these little They're giving these little cubes that you put in your tongue, and you can see all the music in the sky.
You can see in 6 dimensions up there, dude.
And Venus chicks are super hot, and they all love me and only me, George Adamski.
I'm the only man up there.
So
basically.
he had to repopulate Venus all by himself.
Oh my lord. Well,
That's why he was gone so long.
Well, at the height of his popularity, Hynek was actually traveling to Palomar Observatory.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you mentioned, he managed a burger stand.
Yeah, that was
Just
close
to Palomar Observatory.
And yeah, so he actually had he had a compound, like his own compound.
Yeah.
Where like all the people would show up and he'd give like sermons basically.
Yeah.
What?
And like and they had like a little burger restaurant stand.
Yeah.
And it was real close to the actual observatory, so people would be like, "Do you work with the observatory?" He's like, "I can't say, but I can say." And that's what he would do, and they'd be like, oh. And so that's where he got the professor from. People were like, Professor Adamski. He's like, listen, I'm not saying I work for
It's
it.
like frying up burgers.
Yeah.
Professor.
He's like frying the burgers.
I can't say that I'm with them.
The grease fires in the back. Professor, we need your help.
Well, basically, Hynek shows up with a couple of his astronomer buddies.
His drinking buddies.
His cronies, dude.
His cronies, they roll up on his burger joint, and guess what? Adamski is there.
Oh, no way.
And so Hynek goes up to him and he's like, "Can I have the 10-piece chicken nuggets?" And Adamski goes, "I'm going to keep it real with you, boss. I've been eating the nuggies in the back and we only got like 3 tops." Just kidding, that didn't happen.
Hynek rolled up. He's like, "I'm here to..."
Well, Hynek did order food, though. And so as he was waiting to get his food, he started talking it up with his astronomer buddies about the new optical filters on the telescope,
right? Yeah.
in the observatory. And, they were talking about it loudly to try to attract his attention because these new lenses were supposed to be so good they would prove indisputably that life existed on Mars.
Yeah.
And they were hoping that would get Adamski's attention, which
Yeah.
it did.
He was playing cool in the back.
And he, shows
maybe.
up, and it's kind of disappointing, but he didn't want to talk about astronomy, and he didn't want to talk about aliens. He just wanted to sell his pictures.
He's like, oh, they're all the placemats of the Burger Planet were like laminated UFO pictures, and he's like, oh, for $5 you can have that. And it's got like ketchup and mustard on it. It's like sticky.
Yeah.
So basically, that was Hynek's
that
interaction.
was when they met each other for the first, but not the last time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Meet again?
Yeah, it keeps going.
Wow.
Each time they keep getting more and more into it.
He's trying to
Fist
sell.
fights.
Adamski is actually a very important figure in UFO lore.
Yeah,
kind of
but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, he's basically the earliest prototype of Bob Lazar.
He's the Loki.
Bob Lazar was like, I want to be Adamski
Yeah.
when I grow up.
He's the Loki of the Hynek cinematic universe.
Oh my.
He keeps popping in and out of different planets, causing mayhem, knocking up alien chicks, and just leaving. But yeah, so this guy, he's gotten a big enough name that Bluebook decides to check him out.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Hynek met him, but Hynek actually wasn't investigating him on Bluebook. It was Rumbold.
Ruppelt.
Rumble.
Rumble.
Get ready to rumble.
So in the early 50s, Ruppelt, right? That's his name?
Yeah, Ruppelt.
Yeah, he's the head of the Bluebook. And so he goes to check out Adamski. And so he went to Palomar Mountain. That's where he had his compound.
Yeah, Palomar.
And he's dressed in plain civilian clothes, not to attract attention. And he attended one of the lectures going on at the cafe, actually.
Huh.
So he's selling burgers and prophesizing about, how hot Venus women are. And Ruppelt Ruppelt concluded Adaminsky was a talented con artist
Yeah.
whose UFO stories were designed to make money from his gullible followers and listeners, and he compared him to a famed hoaxer, carnival, and circus showman, P.T. Barnum.
Hey.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He gets a
Hugh
lot.
Jackman himself, dude.
Yeah. They even broke out into the song of like, "You are who you are, stand up and fight."
Horrible.
And he wrote, "To look at the man and listen to his story, you had an immediate urge to believe him. He was dressed in well-worn but neat overalls. He had slightly graying hair and the most honest pair of eyes I've ever seen. He spoke softly and naively, almost pathetically, giving the impression that most people think I'm crazy, but honestly, I'm really not."
Oh.
So I guess that's kind of how he like would disarm people.
He's a
Is
trickster,
came
dude.
across as a putz.
Even though he actually was one, dude, he's just pretending to be.
Yeah.
Well, here's the cool thing about this guy is his location to us.
The
'cause
sky?
This guy.
Oh.
And this guy.
Yeah, Adamski. Because Palomar Observatory, I've actually been there. It's actually really close to where I grew up.
Oh.
And it's actually not that far from here.
Yeah.
And so I
Let's
was
go?
curious to check out to see if the burger stand was still there. I don't think it is. Because there's now, where it used to be, there's a campground now for like RVs, and it's called Oak Knoll Campgrounds.
Okay.
And that used to be Palomar Gardens. And yeah, we can go.
Yeah.
I feel like
Right now?
Yeah, let's go right now.
Yeah.
Hey, pause real quick.
Yo, Adaminsky, we're coming for you. We're gonna get some of those Darren burgers we heard so much about.
Yeah, so
That's
I feel like we could honestly go there in a day. That's a day trip.
yeah.
And just check it out. And if we don't find anything, let's just go to the observatory.
Yeah.
It's right
we
there.
Just make up our own stories and sell our books because his books sold millions of copies.
Yeah.
But that's just like kind of touching on Adaminsky because
Yeah.
he's like, there's so much to his story. We'll probably do an episode about him because
This
Yeah.
dude,
he's a pretty fun guy.
Yeah,
Seems
it sounds like it.
almost a Willy Wonka type
Yeah.
character, dude.
Willy Wonkers.
He even walked with a cane and pretended to fall over and trip all the time.
He couldn't get back up, though.
Yeah, he could. I broke my hip. Help! Help! Buy my book. Help!
Pay my hospital bills.
So that brings us to our next guy, which is Donald Kehoe.
Hey, who's that? I'm just kidding.
Give him the old hee-ho.
Hee-haw.
If you want to
Okay.
start breaking it down,
Yeah,
Stefan.
of course. All right, so Donald Kehoe was a Marine Corps naval aviator. And when he was 25 in 1922, he was in an airplane crash. And it injured his arm. So he began to start writing fiction.
Oh,
Go
so
ahead and pass the time, like in the hospital and everything, and through physical therapy. And he ended up going back to active duty, but his arm prevented him from like being comfortable doing everything that he needed to do. So he ended up just retiring.
He ended
like,
up
a
chopping it off and
Yeah.
growing a new one.
So he retired like a year later, and then he ended up working for a couple other like government agencies, like one where they like map coordinates of like the coast and everything, and then but he ended up going on he ended up managing a coast-to-coast tour with Charles Lindbergh, strange
Oh,
enough, in 1927.
looking for the lost Lindbergh baby.
who's Charles Lindbergh?
He's an author.
Wait,
What has he written?
he's a pilot too, right? Am I
Yeah,
thinking of
yeah.
different guy?
Hmm?
Oh,
Lindbergh,
you're
right?
thinking you Spirit of St. Louis?
Yeah.
That guy? No, I don't think. I think we're talking about a different guy.
Oh, I was like, they're looking for his lost baby.
No.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's a pilot.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
a pilot.
But the Spirit of St. Louis guy, you think?
I don't know. I don't. Should we look it up?
Yeah.
ahead, dude. I
Because if so, that'd be pretty crazy. If not, it's just there's two Charles Lindberghs who were running around at the same
Nah,
time.
it's got to be the same one.
Charles Lindbergh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how it's spelled? Lindbergh?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it is the
Yeah.
same guy.
Yeah. That's
What if
I
it
can't- that's-
was?
that's-
Yeah. They're looking for the lost baby. They're like, where to go? Baby, where you at?
That's
Exactly.
interesting.
So he's flying around with him, and he ended up writing a book about his experience with him afterwards, and it ended up doing like pretty well, and he ended up getting a lot of freelance jobs, writing for magazines and everything. He ended up returning to active duty during World War II, and then retired afterwards.
Mm.
Dang.
Yeah, But he kind of was just coasting until the Kenneth Arnold event happened, and it kind of piqued his interest in UFOs, and he kind of wanted to start looking into them, and he started to become convinced that they were real. The people who were responsible for like researching it, like the Air Force and everybody,
like Sign and Grudge.
Yeah, they weren't. He just wanted to get on the action, like CSI.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Arnold, that's the guy who crashed, right?
No. That's Thomas Mantell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kenneth Arnold was the guy in Washington who saw the 9
Yeah, he
objects.
saw
Oh,
the
okay,
UFOs.
okay.
Yeah, because then he said the government was suppressing the truth, and I got a quote. It says every time he would ask, because he's a military guy, he's got some connections.
Right.
So he's asking around and said he said they told him they had nothing on the subject, but that he was also denied seeing saucer-related documents. So they were just kind of like giving him like two conflicting
run
like,
around.
Yeah. But he ended up publishing an article called "Flying Saucers Are Real" in a January 1950 issue of the magazine True, and kind of blew up, got Ruppelt's attention. Yeah, and then he ended up forming NICAP with some of his government buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena.
Oh, one note on Flying Saucers Are Real. I read that they were selling so much they could barely keep up with demand. Like, it was flying off the
It
shelves.
shit blew up.
Whoa.
Yeah. All right, continue.
People were eating it up, dude. Yeah, it got everywhere.
Yeah. So NICAP, their goal, they're going to put a
Yeah.
NICAP in every alien's ass out there.
The NICAP ended up being founded about like almost 10 years after Kenneth Arnold, so it's 1956.
Okay.
And
that's funny because that's also the time that year, 1956, is when Columbia Pictures bought the rights for his second book, which was Flying Saucers from Outer Space, and they turned it into a movie called Earth versus Flying Saucers.
Ray Harryhausen did the effects for it.
And they
cool.
say that he actually consulted Adamski on the designs of the
Oh,
saucers.
yeah.
That's
Isn't
hilarious.
that crazy? But, the real kicker here is that Kehoe didn't even like the movie.
Yeah. He's like,
It's not true to my book. It's not true to the spirit.
He's like, it's cold and unfeeling.
But yeah, so they went through a couple of presidents, if you will, or leaders of NICAP.
Yeah.
Before Kehoe ended up taking over, like the first guy.
Each one they took out back and shot.
Yeah,
Oh my-
the boy Thomas Townsend Brown, who was like quote unquote like the founder, even though it was like co-founded. He's like the main guy. They ended up like kicking him out because he was just like negligent with the money.
Oh, no.
And they weren't really. Yeah, I mean they were still finding their footing, so it's not like
Yeah.
entirely his fault, obviously. And then
He kept buying like arcade games with
Yeah.
it. He's like, I got Space Invaders. We're gonna learn how to fight the aliens off.
and then there was a second man that took his place. It's Delmer S. Farney. And,
Farney.
Yeah.
Farney the Carney.
Farney
He ended up
burgers?
taking over for a bit, but he didn't last that long either. His wife ended up getting ill, so he had to like step back. And he also, a lot of his government friends and his military buddies weren't being like very respectful because like people think UFOs are a joke, and he was kind of being made fun of
They're
behind his
talking
back, and
mad
it was
ish
making him
on him?
uncomfortable. Yeah, so he figured like he doesn't have a lot of stake in it, so he was just like, I'm gonna
Dang.
bump out. So yeah, so Kehoe comes in, and he kind of sets the stage for what they got going on. He like
He's a military dude.
Yeah.
exactly, and he's got some good connections.
That's when the guns get brought in.
Exactly, and Kehoe actually fought to get congressional hearings with everybody together to try and sit down and talk and figure out what the hell was going on. Try and take it a little bit seriously since nobody else really was trying to.
Yeah, he's trying to make advancements to actually get some credibility going.
Yeah, exactly. So they're running for a while. They're gaining members, they're gaining traction. And they're a non-profit.
Okay.
So they're just running on members who pay.
Yeah.
But and they gain a lot of popularity in the '60s when like Barney and Betty happened.
The
Hills.
swinging 60s.
Yeah, all
Woody
the-
Derenberger even said that he was investigated by Nightcap.
Yeah. They're like, where are them burgers at, boy?
Yeah, so they had, since they were like, they had friends in high places, they had access to all the files and everything, and they had enough staff members. They were still struggling, but they were like
Doing better than
actually,
like
yeah,
CSI
they were like
and
they weren't like struggling to keep their head above water like for the most part. So they were going, but in 1968 the Condon report came out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And they were doing well up until then. Everyone's like super into UFOs. They got like 15,000 members. Like they're doing okay.
Yeah.
They're doing okay.
They had their own division out in the Spain ranch.
Yeah, exactly. But the Condon report comes out and says like, you know, studying UFOs is like gonna be fruitless.
Yeah.
And it has been, and like they're not a threat.
yeah.
And it's kind of just a waste of time. So
Yeah.
right after that, they like their membership drops like to like less than 5,000. Like people just stop caring
Yeah.
about UFOs.
Dang.
And it's just one of those things that like there's no going back
The
after
fad
that.
died.
Yeah.
I think the Condon Committee we cover next episode. So if anyone's confused about that,
Oh my
we'll
bad.
get to it next episode. I know.
Yeah.
It
I couldn't
just-
remember if we
just
did it in
occurred
part
to-
two.
We got you.
Yeah, I think we did.
We got you
Okay.
hooked for part 2.
Yeah, come back for more.
But yeah, it says I got a quote from Hynek actually.
Huh.
And it says he praised Nightcap for like what they were doing. They ended up I think 1980 is when they actually like seized,
Mm.
but the website's still active.
Oh, cool.
Hey.
Keel.
Yeah, there's like a tribute to Keo on there and everything. It's pretty nice.
John Keel?
No,
Donald
Oh.
The way he says Kehoe is weird.
Oh, okay.
Kehoe.
Kehoe.
Well, I
noticed
said
this
Keo first at my house, and then Eli said it the way I was saying it now, and it confused me. So
Keo.
I just figured I'd say it the
No,
way he was
because
saying it.
he said Keo.
Keo.
And I thought he said
Kehoe.
Keel.
Yeah.
So I was like, John Keel?
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, the guy who founded Nightcap. And I was like, what?
Uh-oh.
I
Kehoe.
was like,
Sorry, Kehoe.
Kehoe.
It's all good.
But Hynek said he praised them for being serious-minded people capable of valuable contributions to the subject.
huh.
I thought that was very nice.
They got the
That
Hynek
is
seal of
nice.
approval.
Exactly. Boom. Stamped.
Yeah.
So what's Hynek up to right now? While all this chaos is going on, all these UFO groups popping up.
He's visiting town from town. He's hitting every bar. He's racking up billions in bar tabs. He's leaving black eyes and broken hearts everywhere he goes.
I don't think so.
It's the eye of the storm right now. Dude.
Yeah.
Well, he's still at Ohio State, and he's actually been tapped to participate in the solar eclipse project.
Mm.
So this is like a full-on solar eclipse. I guess the other solar eclipses we have experienced were not full.
They were just like half solar eclipses.
I'm not sure. The next full solar eclipse will occur in 2151. So they're actually going to send, it's 4 teams all around the globe to go study this, because they're going to try to get really accurate measurements of the moon, and I guess somehow using math, they would get accurate. They would get accurate measurements of like the distance between continents and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not an astronomer. I don't understand how you get that from looking at the moon.
It's all about
So-
arcs, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you're looking at the moon and you're like, all right, I think
yeah.
Britain's about 2,500 miles away from here.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Throw a little bit of 2 + 2 = 4 at it. You know, you figure it out.
Yeah, I guess
Move the
so.
5 over.
So Hynek is actually sent to Bandar Shah, Iran, to
Oh.
go
Whoa,
study
really?
this. Yeah. And so part of the thing was you had to study the moon from that area for at least a month.
Yeah.
So they sent him out there. He was living out there for a month.
That's
just
pretty
in like
wild.
this camp. And like they had an observatory out there. And they
And that's where he found the Well of Souls.
No, it was definitely not what they expected it to be, because I guess they were promised water and there was no water to be found.
Uh-oh.
So they had to brush their teeth with soda pop.
Oh.
And
What's the point?
I guess the townspeople were like showing up and like were extremely curious. So curious they had to be held back with armed guards.
Whoa. They're like,
gue-
look at that guy brushing his teeth with soda. What the heck is
Let
he
me at
doing?
him. Let me at him.
Well, I guess they
Your
thought
decadent capitalist ways are over.
I guess they thought that the eclipse was gonna bring like earthquakes and like the
Yeah.
apocalypse was gonna arrive
Yeah.
once the solar
It's
eclipse
gonna be a
happened.
swarm of locusts coming out of
Yeah.
the moon.
And so they spent like a month out there trying to like Hynek and this team of people to like study the moon for these 3.5 minutes
Yeah.
that this would happen. Like, they had 3.5 minutes to get all this data, and the day comes, and a cloud's blocking it.
Oh,
Stop.
no.
I'm not even joking. And what's even worse,
It's one of those invisible clouds.
Yeah.
the other 3 locations had the exact same problem.
Oh,
And
no.
cloud blocked it. This, like,
It was a UFO, dude.
Yeah.
literally once in a lifetime opportunity. Is just
Squandered.
like,
Yeah, it just
'cause-
you tell God your plan to study the full solar eclipse, and he just laughs and laughs.
You should have sent a pilot up there with a vacuum, dude.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Venus the whole time.
well, after this, Hynek was tapped by Harvard College Observatory Director Dr. Fred Whipple.
Okay.
And basically, they teamed up with Hynek to track and photo orbital satellites. Because now we're into, like, space race era.
Mm.
We're like, everyone's trying to get to space.
Yeah.
You know, we're fighting Russia to get to space first. And so basically, the U.S. comes up with a plan called, I think it's Project Vanguard.
Okay.
They're going to launch a rocket into space and launch a satellite off of that rocket to orbit over the Earth.
And then drop a bomb on Russia.
No.
It's
Um,
Hurricane Hynek.
We're coming.
I'm coming to get you.
I'm coming for you, Kremlin.
So this was known as the Vanguard satellite.
Okay.
And what they wanted, as this was being developed, because it was scheduled to launch in 1957, and this was 1955.
Okay.
So they had 2 years, and they wanted Hynek and this guy, Dr. Fred Whipple, to come up with a way to track satellites in space, or like in Earth's orbit, which had literally never been done before
No.
and was largely considered to be impossible.
Yeah.
But it's almost like what Hynek invented already, right? Like the
What do you
sky radar stuff.
Oh, so far?
Yeah.
That wasn't Hynek.
Not because there was 2 separate ones, right? We talked about that. We talked about one. Didn't you say Hynek came up with one?
No, you misunderstood. He came up with the close range proximity sensor, which basically allowed that once a bomb
once
was
a bomb got to an area, it was like, how
It-
the heck are you? I'm a proximity bomb, and it's
Right.
my pleasure to blow up.
yeah, like I'm set to explode at 5 feet above the ground or 10 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
It allowed that to happen. Hynek invented that.
Ah,
Yeah.
he can't do that
He-
with the satellite.
If you want,
not quite.
if you want to
He
learn,
can't
how
do
to,
that with a satellite, dude. Come on, who's
I
this
mean,
guy?
if you want to learn how to blow up a satellite, the
Well-
master of destruction himself, Hynek.
The task was to track and photograph them, so it wasn't just making them explode in space.
Well, that's neither here nor there,
Put-
okay?
Put little
Okay,
cameras on balloons and let them fly up into space. And
So, and who was Whipple's assistant? It
Dipple.
was Dr. Donald Menzel,
Oh
who
no!
called everyone, gullible fools.
Yeah, he.
Um,
After Hynek delayed the smackdown, they walked up and they took the professor patch right off his jacket. They said they ripped his sleeves a little bit and they sent him out on his way with $5. Now he's a lowly assistant to Whipple.
I know,
and
he's gonna have to
Dipple.
get his lattes and shit.
Yeah.
And the guy who was actually the person who was personally commissioned to make the project was Lloyd Berkner, who was the guy who showed up 2 days late to the Robertson
Oh
panel.
yeah.
So
Where are they getting these club heads, dude?
I don't know.
It's just like
So
it's like at every place of like when you work at a place and everyone in management's kind of a putz.
yeah.
And they all know each other and they just kind of move around and it's
Yeah.
just like no one's really good at their job but they're in positions of power.
Jesus.
So this is where Whipple recognized this
Yeah.
and kept Hynek separated from everybody, basically. So everything Hynek was doing was kind of on his own,
yeah.
but he still contributed significantly to the project. In fact, he was the one who suggested that they should invent cameras to take pictures of things in orbit,
Yeah.
because they didn't have that at that
They
time.
didn't even have cameras back then.
I know they did. I mean, we just talked about...
Color
They didn't
was-
even have movies. back
color
then,
wasn't
dude.
even invented back then. It was still black and white. I
So
saw cavemen walking around.
they brought on Dr. James Baker and Joseph Nunn to create the Baker-Nunn camera,
Okay.
which
Where'd they come up with that name, dude?
Baker and Nunn.
they I skipped over the specifics because I'm not entirely sure what it all means, but basically they created a new aperture and sensor for the camera.
Cool.
They also mounted it on a swivel,
Oh.
And it was also ginormous. It was 12 feet high and 12 feet wide.
Whoa.
Yikes.
And there's 12 of them that were placed around the globe.
Wow.
Or scheduled, as they were coming out.
Yeah.
However, it had one weakness. It could photograph stuff in orbit, but it could not track things in orbit.
Okay.
That had to be done by humans.
Manually, yeah.
And so basically, people had to see the satellite and then calculate its trajectory and then move the camera into place.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And so the Vanguard satellite is set to launch December 1957. We're like right there.
Yeah.
And on October 4th, 1957, Hynek received a call. Russia had launched Sputnik.
Yeah.
And everyone was freaking out because of what you kind of suggested earlier is, were they going to send up a satellite into space to come bomb the U.S.?
Yeah.
Like, that was like a real fear.
Yeah.
And the problem was, no one could see Sputnik for the first few days.
Yeah.
Like, it was up there, and nobody, like, knew where it was.
And when was this?
57.
Okay, yeah.
And so, the only Baker Nunn camera that was operational had been disassembled because it was moving. It was in Pasadena, California. Literally, it was like the worst time for this to happen.
Yeah.
And so, actually, this is where Hynek really gets a lot of his early fame from, because he became known as the Sputnik guy.
Yeah.
Because he was like one of the only experts in the world. Him and Hynek, or Whipple and Hynek, were the experts, the ones calculating the trajectory of Sputnik.
Keep an eye on. They actually kind of could keep an eye on it,
and making sure like people weren't freaking out because like they're like there's no imminent threat right now that we're gonna explode and die. Stuff like that. And it was televised and like over the radio. And, like millions of people heard Hynek and Whipple talking about this.
Yeah, because it was Sputnik 2, I think, right? Is the one?
Well, that happened a little bit later.
Okay, so this is early 2007 or
this is
1957.
Yeah, 2007.
Well,
2017 Sputnik launched.
Their calculations about the trajectory of Sputnik ended up being right, but in November 2nd, Sputnik 2 was launched.
Yeah, that's what.
And that was carrying
the body of Lenin.
Was it?
That's where Russia kept him safe for when they might need him again for another time in the future.
Well, I got that it was carrying a dog named Laika. Who only survived 4 orbits before she died.
She survived 4 orbits before the aliens came and saved her, and she went to have adventures in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh my. Actually, that would be an interesting story.
Because Laika's in it.
Really?
That's the Collector.
Oh wow.
There's the little space dog.
That's
the Russian
Laika,
outfit.
Huh?
Yeah, Laika survived.
Oh, that's cool.
Benicio's got him.
Yeah.
And so we have Sputnik 1 and Sputnik 2 in orbit around the Earth.
Yeah.
And then we get to December 1957 when the U.S. is trying to launch the Vanguard rocket. And this is pretty awful because it takes off 4 feet off the ground, crashes back into the Earth, and explodes into a ball of fire. This is, I guess the way the book kind of put it is that things in space was like not a thing yet.
Yeah.
Like people hadn't put things in space, and to think that
a dog was up,
that supposedly the best country in the world could not put one up before Russia could, before some dirty communists could.
Yeah.
You know, it just, and then the fact that their first try at launching something into space explodes is just like awful.
Like, not a great time to be an American.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, quick, cut to the Dick Van Dyke Show or something. Go.
So I have this quote from Hynek.
It is only in retrospect now that one can sense what really happened. The public reaction to Sputnik was, as you recall, a strange mixture of awe, admiration, and fear. The latter enhanced, of course, because there had been no warning. As my barber put it, most people realized that things in the sky were put there by God, and here was something that was brand new in the skies, which, although it wasn't put there by God, must have been put there by someone awfully close to God.
Oh, and that's when Soviet Russia.
His barber said that?
Yeah,
I guess so.
I don't know what it is, but that you got people here waxing poetic left and right.
Dude,
the barber's just like cutting his hair, just like I tell you what, like
dude,
Russia,
tip him double, dude.
It's just like God's in the sky looking at us, and we're looking up at him. But now Russia is our God. Like it's like, God damn, this guy's. It's like
I'm gonna go get my haircut somewhere else, dude.
Yeah, here's a $2 tip for the haircut. I'll see you. I'll call you next time.
2 bits, dude.
Yeah.
Well, something else significant happened on November 2nd, 1957. And there were sightings of what people called a big ball of flame in Levelland, Texas.
Yeah, old Levelland.
So, you want to share that with us, Alex?
Yeah, so, as you said, it happened November 2nd, which is the same day Sputnik 2 launched into the sky.
Yep.
The first report that the police get, they were driving along, I believe, Route 6 or something, a freeway.
Okay.
And they see, off in the distance, a rocket, like, go up and then start flying towards them.
Huh.
And it's a 200-foot long rocket, they say, and it just starts dive bombing at them. So they stop the car, and they jump out into a ditch because they're like, "Oh God, it's coming! It's the end!" And it flies past them, and just kind of disappears into the sky.
Crazy.
But as it passed over, the car engine stopped, and the engine stopped, and the lights went out. And then when it flew away, the car came back on.
Sure.
So you have a vehicle electricity disturbance.
That's crazy.
And then throughout the night, more and more reports are coming out. But this time not of a rocket, but like a big blue light, like kind of flying around. And every time it flies around, cars are just stopping. The lights are turning off, the engines are dying when it's in the vicinity. And then as it flies away, the cars come back on.
Huh.
I think there's about 15 people who saw it. Even the police saw it.
Yeah.
Because they went to go investigate, and they saw...
Yeah.
Like, I think they saw the big blue light. Because the first report's a rocket, and then the people in town see more like flashing light kind of thing. And then I think the cops see a big blue light. And so it happens like late at night and goes to early morning. So it's November 2nd to November 3rd that people are seeing this light in the sky. Yeah. And, you hear the reports of just like, hey, Russia sent something into space. They sent Sputnik 2, better than the first one,
Yeah. And so I think that, because I was reading that the sheriff was really dismissive of the calls.
Yeah. The first call.
Yeah.
He straight up just says, like, yeah, those guys are morons.
Yeah.
The one guy reported, he's like, yeah, that guy had like a 3rd grade education.
Oh
Didn't even know how to read. Didn't even know this guy, and he's roasting him. So, like... So, yeah, the sheriff is, like, just pissing on everyone's parade, and then he sees the thing, and he's just like, I guess I gotta piss on my parade now.
It's only fair.
Zip.
Did you get anything about the Bluebook investigation of this?
Oh, yeah. Boy,
You betcha.
Boy, let me tell you. So this is 57. This is Bluebook, and it's fine decline. So they send out. I didn't get who they sent out. It was just some random guy.
Yeah, just some rando.
The intern. They're like, hey, go get us coffee, and also go to Levelland, Texas, while you're at it too.
Which one first?
Shows up for 7 hours, investigates maybe, I think 5 people, if that.
Okay.
Because from what I can tell, what they were saying is there was 15 people who for sure called in a report, including the sheriff. I think he interviewed 5 people, was there for 7 hours. Asked, hey, you guys have any storms in the area? I'm like, oh, it was kind of cloudy in the morning. He's like, ball lightning.
Yeah,
happens every time. And then so they say it's ball lightning, and then Hynek, they get asked Hynek's opinion too.
Huh.
He gets some of the info, but he's busy looking at Sputnik.
Yeah, he's responsible for tracking Sputnik too at this time. That's why he's
doing all the math and trick. Now he's just like, I gotta find where this Russia thing is. Keep an eye. They're like, hey, did you hear about the UFO in Lebanon? He's like, what? I don't know. They're like, they saw a blue light, and they said there was a storm. It could have been ball lightning. I gotta get back to this. Like you guys take it from here. And they're like, hey, Hynek said it's ball lightning. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, I guess to add to that, I didn't mention this earlier, but I don't know how fast Sputnik 2 was traveling, but Sputnik 1 was fully orbiting the Earth every 96 minutes.
Yeah.
That's like how fast this was.
Isn't that crazy? Every hour and a half, it's just flying around.
So Hynek wasn't just like maxing and relaxing tracking these things.
Yeah.
It was like every hour and a half.
He's just like, where is it?
Yeah.
So there's about 10 vehicles that were stopped in a short area in about like a 2-hour time independently.
Right.
There was no lightning and no thunderstorms like at all. Thunderstorms. They said it was kind of cloudy in the morning. There was like mist, but there was no lightning. So, but Bluebook's like, oh, it was ball lightning.
Yeah.
And Hynek wrote, As the person responsible for the tracking of the new Soviet satellite Sputnik, I was on virtual around the clock duty and was unable to give any attention whatever. I am not proud today that I hastily concurred in the U.S. forces' evaluation of ball lightning on the basis of information that electrical storm had been in progress in the Leverland area at the time. This is not shown to be the case. Observers reported overcast and mist, but no lightning. Had I given it any thought whatsoever, I would have recognized the absence of any evidence that ball lightning could stop cars and put out headlights.
Right.
And that's where you get, oh yeah, they didn't interview 9 of the 15 people, the guy who showed up. And none of the witnesses were even mentioned in the Bluebook report.
Oh my lord!
Like they're
really?
just like, something. There's ball lightning and it stopped the car.
Swamp
maybe.
gas.
Yeah, swamp gas on fire by lightning. You know.
That's crazy.
So, he's busy tracking the Soviet, and Bluebook's off blundering this pretty significant case.
Yeah.
Of like actual people ranging from like normal people to sheriffs seeing and having their cars affected.
Well, that's because of cases like this. This is why NICAP came into existence. Because this is around the time that NICAP was actually formed.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who swept in and did like an actual investigation of this particular sighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bluebook was butchering the whole thing. So NICAP came in and, interviewed everybody, I think, and, probably took down their names. And
Yeah.
Cool.
Took down their license registrations.
Yeah.
Took down a list of their fears, home addresses for good measure.
Yeah. Just to add to this, because we talked about Sputnik 1 and 2 launching and also the destruction of the Vanguard satellite. The U.S. did eventually get their first satellite, Explorer 1, into the Earth's orbit on January 31st, 1958.
Slowpokes.
Yeah.
Hey,
And for
we
good
beat them
measure-
to the moon.
Did we?
I mean,
Yeah.
or is it all a clever hoax by Stanley Kubrick?
Stanley
Kubrick,
Kubrick,
dude.
the master.
I mean, look at the frame,
He's
dude.
like Stanley Kubrick, the master of film. Is like, I'm gonna have an open wide shot on the moon, as nothing happens, and then a man clunkily walks around and puts a flag up, and then I'm gonna go do The Shining for good measure too. Bye, everybody.
Also around this time, because Sputnik is up in the air, a lot of UFO sightings are dismissed as misidentifications as Sputnik.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So,
Of
I mean,
course.
think about it. There's nothing orbiting Earth until then. Which is crazy because you can look up right now and see satellites up in the sky.
You see helicopters, airplanes.
It's like, that was not a thing.
They're just like, there's a big giant red cigar with the hammer and sickle flying above my farmhouse.
Yeah.
The aliens are here, and they're communists.
Well, that kind of brings us to our next case, which is October 18th, 1958, when Kenneth Houston saw a UFO in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
What?
So, yeah, tell us.
Wait,
tell us
Papua
about
New
this.
Guinea?
Wait, did you say
Yeah.
58?
Yeah, 58.
Oh, yeah, 59 this happened.
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
I got 58.
Yeah, so I'll give the brief description of what I was able to find, and maybe we can dissect it a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, Papua New Guinea, which I didn't know, it's around Australia.
Yeah.
It's like a small planet, not a planet, it's a small planet orbiting Australia. It's a small island, and at the time it was under Australian rule. And then I think it later got independent in like the 70s.
Whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, Papua, and I guess it's that's where guinea pigs come from, I guess.
Check
Yeah,
out, you've seen Guns, Germs, and Steel or read the book Jared Diamond did? Yeah,
Does he go to Papua New Guinea?
he does.
Whoa, gets those guinea pigs.
Wait, so tell us about the sightings.
Yeah,
what
sorry.
are we talking about?
All right, we're talking about a man of God.
Okay.
His name, what was his name you had?
Father Gill.
Father Gill.
Father Gill.
I think William Gill?
Father Gilmore Gill.
Gilmore Gill.
Gilly Gill.
I just got Father Gill.
Father Gill. Yeah, Father Gill. And,
Yep, that's him.
that's him, all right. He's hanging
Anyway.
out, having dinner. He's trying to preach the good word to these people of Papua New Guinea. And they're just like, we don't want none of that. Leave us alone. And they're like, there's something in the sky, Father Gill. Check this out. And then they run outside, and he's got a flashlight, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a flying saucer outside.
Just chilling, right?
Just chilling, just hovering.
chilling.
And he's just like, oh, this is not in my Bible.
Well,
What is this?
Not only that, but there's people on top of it that are like
What?
doing stuff.
They're like,
yeah.
there's like, you can see aliens.
They're
with, like,
waving like
they're,
that,
They're
dude.
like got like little feelies, and they're just like waving and like blowing
Hi.
kisses, and everyone's like,
He's like this.
Who, me? He starts flashing a flashlight at him, and they start, I think, flashing back at him.
Yeah,
He's cursing him out in Morse code.
Father
dude.
Gill, he says he raised a hand, and one of the figures raised a hand back, and then Father Gill raised the other hand, and the figure raised both hands back. And that's when it actually lowered, but it didn't land. It lowered, like, closer to them, and that's when they pointed the flashlight at it, and it started, I think they said, like, rocking back and forth.
Yeah, it kind of started rocking a little bit. They could see a little bit more of the people.
Yeah.
And that's when the death ray came out.
Well...
And that's when he put on his armor of God and fought the aliens.
I guess it was seen for 3 days, though.
Yeah, it kept
Really?
coming
Yeah.
around. I think
Even
it
during the day,
disappeared
or
and come
just at
back.
night?
It would disappear during the day and come back at night.
Ah,
Yeah.
tricky.
And then
And it kept hovering, but I think each time it kept being like a little bit more in the air, like it wasn't gonna come down.
until the third day, like, people didn't care anymore.
Yeah,
They
they're
were
like,
just
oh, it's
whatever.
that thing again.
And I think I got that nobody even saw it leave the last time. They just like
They just blink and it's gone. Oh, okay, cool.
It's like that
That's
friend.
alright.
It's like your friend or party who's like not digging it, and just like you don't see it for the rest of the night.
yeah.
He just dipped. It just dipped out while they were.
Father's like ready to fight on the third day. He's got the Bible taped all over him.
He's like, I'm ready for you, alien demons of the sky.
They're gone.
Well,
They
uh,
ghosted him.
Bluebook didn't see any alien demons from the sky.
Yeah, but they sent Hynek.
Did they?
I thought-
Oh
I thi-
yeah, years later.
Yeah.
though.
Oh, okay.
Their first that was when Hynek is going through, like, re-going through old files.
Okay. Okay.
Or old cases. Because their first reaction to this was reflections on a cloud of a major light source of unknown origin.
Yeah.
Basically, a light was pointing at the clouds.
And it made it look like shadow people up and dancing
Okay.
around.
I guess so. Well, they didn't even attempt to answer why there was people on there.
They're like, those were the sky
Of
fairies.
course not.
Yeah.
Like they have anything better to do, dude.
Yeah. I got that Hynek didn't even find out about it till like 2 years later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like, he just...
He's just sweating Sputnik, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just like, when's that giant potato gonna land?
Well, he also took a job at Northwestern University in '59.
Yeah.
So he left Ohio State and became the chairman of astronomy
Oh.
at
Cool.
Northwestern.
Yeah.
So, and this is actually kind of sad. When he turned in his resignation to Dr. Fred Whipple about the whole, I forget what it was called.
The Whipple cam.
The Baker Nunn camera and everything to track and everything.
Yeah.
He turned in his resignation, and Whipple wrote back on a handwritten note, and this is what it said.
Your leaving SAO is a real personal loss to me, as you are not only a real friend, but an optimistic, positive person who is always eager to do something new. Never could I have lived through some of our vicissitudes without your continued encouragement and backing. We all miss you, and Mimi more than you ever will know or believe. Thank you for investing 4.5 years with me. Regards forever, Fred 15.
Mimi is his wife, for those of you who may have forgotten from their first episode.
Oh, let's see. Vicissitude, a change or variation. Usually unforeseen change in circumstance or experience that affects one's life, especially in one trying way.
Literally
Sputnik.
definition of his life, dude.
Yeah, it's just like this guy's
Who would have thought?
This guy's waxing poetic, going to like the dictionary and was like, "What's the most obscure word I could find for 1959?" Vicissitude.
Might have been
Can you
very
use
popular.
it-
Who
can you
knows?
Use it in a sentence.
Could have been very popular back then.
Hey, what's vicissituding, my dudes?
Well, around this time, Hynek actually had a baby boom, because he had 2 sons around this time in the
What?
early 60s, Paul and Ross.
Yeah.
And his other 3 children were now in their early 20s and late
Oh,
teens. So,
my.
like, he basically waited till one batch was over and started over.
He's like, I'm gonna
Hey,
make the
that's
next,
okay,
the
that's his
future
right.
generation right
It's
here.
pretty wild.
Dude,
This,
I don't know about you.
The next race of supermen, courtesy of Hynek.
Yeah, dude, what do you think of when you see Sputnik, dude? I'm just kidding.
Potato.
Potato.
Also, Captain Hector Quintanilla was placed in charge of Bluebook at this
The
time.
ultimate clucker.
Yeah, the sworn enemy of the UFO, who had recently quit smoking before being placed in charge, but then took it up again.
Yeah.
Of course.
I thought that was
I like
so-
how that's mentioned in the book.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
that's why I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, it's just like you just reduce him to like bullet points. Like the guy, he tried to quit smoking, but then they're
He's
like,
weak.
yeah, what a pot. What his wife made good food.
Well, at Dearborn, that is true. His wife made good food.
That's right.
At Dearborn Observatory at Northwestern in 1960, Hynek met William Bill Powers.
Ooh.
So they investigated a couple cases together, and they got along really well.
Yeah.
So that's like one of his
One of his drinking buddies.
compadres, Hurricane Hynek and Bill the Will Powers.
Bill the Will.
So, did you have anything on Bill Powers?
Not too much.
Oh, okay.
All I could find was he was just a friend of Hynek. Like it's like you look up Bill Powers and it's just like Hynek's friend, Hynek so and so.
That's it.
Yeah.
Darn.
He was Cliff Booth to Hynek's Rick
Rick
Dalton.
Dalton.
Rick Dalton, that's
Yeah.
right. After a few years of being the dynamic duo, Powers and Hynek teamed up with Jacques Vallée.
Yeah.
Also
Whoa.
at Dearborn Observatory but this was in 1963. So, and he wanted to delve into computer programming.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Upload his brain into the collective consciousness of computers.
And what's cool about this is that Vallée admired Hynek.
Yeah.
Because Vallée was actually doing a lot of UFO work in France, and then he recently moved to Texas to take the job at Northwestern. And so, like, Vallée looked up to Hynek because of all the UFO work he was doing.
Yeah.
And so, I guess when they first met, they didn't just talk for like an hour or two. They talked for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Old
No
Fro-
sleep.
Old Frog Legs had some things to say about UFOs.
What? Frog legs.
Yeah.
Oh, France. I have this note from Vallée that he had written in his journal. I guess I'll read it.
Yeah.
He said this about Hynek. He is a warm and yet deeply scholarly man, with much energy and a great sense of humor, an open mind, and a deep sense of culture that comes from the sophistication of his Czech ancestry. I am impressed by his sharp ideas and his eagerness for action. He has a lively face where piercing eyes are softened by a little goatee that makes it hard to take him completely seriously. Also, a fun fact, Powers and Vallée all wrote short sci-fi stories in the early days.
Yeah?
Yeah, just like Hynek did.
And Kehoe, dude.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they all did it, which is pretty interesting.
It'd be fun to read this stuff, too.
Yeah, I gotta find it. I think all the Vallée stuff is in French, though.
Yeah, it's just about aliens smoking cigarettes and watching movies in black and white as it slowly pans on like a woman's face looking out a window.
What?
Just his fiend.
Fiend.
So, during the 60s, Hynek was actually helping NASA a lot.
Yeah.
And he suggested LUVO, or the Lunar Vacuum Observatory, which is a telescope that would be placed on the moon by Apollo astronauts.
Ooh.
Because the idea was that Apollo astronauts, after the first time landing on the moon, they would
Just live there.
well keep visiting like
Oh.
all the time. And so he was
We
like,
can't get them back?
No. So the idea was that during one of these trips, they would just drop off the telescope
Yeah.
so they could take pictures from space. Because we take it for granted now, but the Hubble telescope and everything, that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So the only pictures that were coming from space were from on Earth. And that just like got like all that atmosphere that you have just blocking, light pollution, stuff like that,
Yeah.
which wasn't nearly as bad as it is today, but it's still like enough to obscure things. And so the idea was putting it on the moon so you didn't have to deal with the atmosphere. And it kind of just got put off indefinitely. They kind of just like, yeah, we'll worry about that
we'll
later.
get to it
Sure.
eventually.
Yeah.
We're going to be living on the moon in 5 years, boys. It'll be fine.
And another quick note is that in August 1965, the Mariner 4 flew past Mars for the first time in history and took 21 images of the planet.
Yeah.
And everyone was ready to see pictures of fields and irrigation systems and people living on Mars.
They're like, we got our
Dry-ass
backup planet
land, dude.
right there, guys.
And to find that it's completely empty.
And barren, dry.
There's nothing on it.
Uh-oh.
And that was like the first time it really hit the American populace that we're alone. That like there's no one else there. There's no one next door.
There was no hope.
You gotta go to Venus. That's where all the people are living
Right.
and swinging around.
Apparently. But it did leave one question, and that was, if people aren't coming from Mars, where are they coming from?
Neptune.
From inside the Earth itself.
Yeah. And that's about it. I think that's...
Yeah.
Just a minor episode.
Yeah, I mean, we'll pick up next time with Quintanilla as, head of Bluebook. because we know what Heineck is gonna do next, and
Yeah,
it's a whole.
he's storming the front gates of the White House, and he's like, I've had it here. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take it anymore.
Yeah, no. But if we wanted to start closing out.
Yeah,
so-
I think we start doing our sign outs.
Yeah.
What about you? Let's start with you, fella.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Let's switch it up. How about you, baby boy?
Oh no. I guess you can find me on Instagram at Myers Stefan. It's my first, or I guess my last and first name together. No spaces, no.
No apostrophes.
What's the
no
no
BS.
underscores?
No underscores.
What about you, big boyo?
Oh, hello. I'm Alex Daikaiju. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter at Alex Daikaiju. Alex DAIKAIJU. And what about you, fella?
You can find me at the Eli Watson on both Instagram and Twitter, but I feel like the best way to reach me is through the official Cryptid Campfire Instagram at Cryptid Campfire.
Yeah.
If you DM us, you're DMing me.
Yeah.
So just so
Send
y'all
us
know.
those good cryptozoology memes.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Or just memes in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're down with that meme life.
There's some good ones.
And we are Cryptid Campfire. We have the official Twitter
Mhm.
that me, Eli, and Jasmine run, and at any kind of given day,
Yeah.
probably Stephen will add it to it too, so you don't know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
We have the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
We got the official website,
Yep.
cryptidcampfire.com.
Yeah.
The
And if you
Patreon.
are listening to this, you are subscribed to our Patreon. So thank you
Yeah,
very much
thank
for,
you.
Thank you.
for doing that.
Yeah, so here's to you, kid. Just looking at you.
And we hope you enjoyed the episode. And
Yeah, let us know what you think. If you
Yeah.
if you want more content on the Patreon, let us know. We're more than willing to start ripping up some new episodes, new content for you fellas.
ripping them up.
Yeah.
Zip them on out of there, dude.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. We'll see you next week for part 2 of Project Bluebook.
Mm-hmm. See you on Tuesday.
Bye.